What is up, goobers? Welcome back to another Midas Makes Games video. Today, the two main projects that we're going to be talking about is SpiderWeb, our roguelite immersive sim horror serial killer game, and Project Andromeda, my solo project RPG space opera awesome game. I'm making both of them, and I'm going to talk about it. If you're brand new and you don't know what this series is, I detail my day-to-day life. Every day I make a video talking about what I did and my experience and my journey, how I'm feeling, what I learned that day. And so you guys get to go on a little game dev journey with me as I work on a ton of different projects trying to build out my portfolio. That's the basic concept. If you're not new, hi, thanks for coming back. Okay, now I'm going to stop dilly-dallying. Cue the days up. First thing, SpiderWeb progress. So, we've had this idea for a while that, since your mouse controls where the hand moves in SpiderWeb, there's no way to look around, which is pretty detrimental if, you want to do anything that looking around requires, like picking something off the ground or doing anything to the side of you without turning. What we wanted to do is when you hold right click, you were able to look around, but there was a ton of issues with that. For example, if you release right click, what happens? Does your camera stay in that direction? Your body isn't turned in that direction. So if you move around, you're moving you're looking this way, but you're moving like this. It looks weird and janky and it's bad. And so, but then if you turn with the camera, then what's the point of the tank controls? Oh. And don't even forget that there's another problem, which is when you look around, should your hand move with you? If you're trying to do some stuff that you'd want to do when you look around, you'd want your hand to come with, but should it always be that way? Then the body has to move, and it all gets really confusing. Here's the solution that we found. We liked the idea that when you move the camera, your arm moved with to a point. So the way that it works right now, when you look around, as long as you're 45 degrees or less from the forward position, you're good. The arm will move with you. There's no problems there. After 45 degrees, you can still turn your head, but the arm won't come with you. It is just your arm move. Oh no. Hold on. Sorry, I didn't have my mic in front of my mouth. So maybe the audio quality of that sucked. The analog of this, right, is that your arm is out like this, but you're turning your head, right? And so naturally, when your body is like that, what you want to do is turn your head back to a natural position where your shoulders are aligned. So that's how we have it. You can go from a 90-degree angle from where your legs are planted. But when you release right click, you will automatically go back to that 45. And then any amount of movement will slowly shift whatever area you're looking at back towards the center until you're back at zero. Personally, I'm a big fan of the solution. It did take a pretty long time of me and Atlas just discussing how it should work, but it worked, yeah, and we're good. On a side note, second thing I did today, Project Andromeda. Now, I didn't get a ton of work done. I think I maybe worked for 30 minutes, but I got a character. I created a little environment. I got a character controller in, and you can click around and they will move to that point. That's it, and that's all I need. Yeah, no, that's all I need. Game's done. One project in the bag. No, I mean, I'm, you know what, any amount of progress is just kind of motivating. Now that there's something, I have something to do. It's not just an empty project. Something exists. Yeah, see you tomorrow. Bye. Hey guys. So it's the 9th right now, and yesterday I wanted to get some stuff done, but I couldn't, because I was editing my video and there was a bunch of problems and I ended up staying up really late trying to fix them, but it's uploaded and I was like, okay, well today I'm going to do extra stuff. So I wanted to work on SpiderWeb and Project Andromeda. And so I did. and I ended up staying up really late again. So I recorded time lapses of me doing them. I will explain it all right or in a sec, but that's gonna be me when I'm less tired because I really need to go to bed. So yeah, see you tomorrow. So I start today off with a really basic character in a box, and as of right now, the character can move around. But I got that script from a YouTube tutorial, so it's not super modern. I immediately start with opening up the new Unity input system. I've never used this before, and honestly, I didn't feel like there was super good information about it that was like easy to parse through online, because it is a very powerful tool, but I had to learn it. So for a few minutes here, I'm just kind of messing around with trying to get the input system working and trying to get this script to like be a little nicer, be more fitting for what the code quality of the rest of the project is going to be. After I got that set up, I know that I wanted the camera to follow the player around, but I realized that I can't just grab the player. That wouldn't be valuable because I need to change which character the player is controlling, and so the camera needs to know that information. So what I set up is a manager that can track which character is currently the selected character, the character that's being controlled. And once the game has that information, and since that manager is a singleton, it means that anything in the game can access it, then I can use the follow selected script, know which character is selected, and then the camera can effectively follow the player wherever I need them to go. And as you can see, it works right there. Now that we have a manager that can know what character is selected, I want to have something that actually lets me change the current selected character. So I set up this little UI that would represent like a character portrait that could be clicked on and then change whatever the current selected character is. But oh, Midas, you don't have art. Wrong. Look at that beautiful thing. These are going to be our placeholder character portraits. Information about each portrait is set up in a struct, which is a type of variable that can be made out of lots of other variables in Unity. So I pass in stuff like this, the name, the sprite for the portrait, the game object that it's associated to, and then I can pass all of that into my UI to later create the actual portrait and have it be selectable, and then change what the selected character is based off of the game object that is associated with the portrait that was created. So this takes a little bit of time for me to set up, but as you'll see, eventually we're going to have these nice, beautiful portraits up on the screen as selectable profiles. Now, even though my logic was spot on, my execution wasn't great, and I had to comb through a little bit of errors until it actually started working. But you'll see in just a second, the sprite will pop up, and then I can switch characters, camera will change automatically, and boom, we have character control and character selection done. Project change now! So today was mostly bug fixing, which means I didn't spend a lot of time on any one individual task. So let me talk about the main bugs that I found and I'm trying to solve through this video. And I apologize for the low quality. The video was taken while I was working on my laptop. So the main thing that I found here that I'm actually solving in this instance is that backing up would cause the hand to jitter a bunch. Now, the reason that this was happening was actually a really simple Unreal setting, and that was that the player was trying to get input to turn around whenever I backed up, but that's not how our character controller worked. Took a short break from bug fixing to implement crouching. The next thing that I had to solve was that moving wasn't updating the arm properly. There was a little bit too much drag. The solution here was just making it so that the arm updated on a different point in each tick, which is how Unreal tracks a passage of a frame. So I just had to make it so the arm updated before the body's movement, so it didn't drag along and it was constantly getting itself to the correct position before the body's rotation was applied. The next issue, which I do talk about in my last devlog, is that attacking was dependent on the frame rate. And as you see right here, the thing that I'm doing is that I'm having the attack speed calculated as an actual velocity, distance over time. so that it no longer is 100% reliant on the frame rate. But while fixing this bug, I noticed another bug where if you moved while attacking at a attackable object, you would get multiple hits. This is a quirk of how I set up the hand hitbox, where it is attached to the front of the hand, and then when the hand pushes into something and moves up, it can then go back and forth into the object that's being attacked. So I just had to change where the actual hitbox was being spawned, and so that it would stay consistent to where the arm is supposed to be, not where it actually is. Even though the time lapse is fast, you can see that the arm is more stable. I just spent the rest of the time cleaning out all the stuff that I did for debugging purposes, and we're good to go. I forgot to hit record, so we're doing it again. Okay, so basically, here's what I did today. 3 main things. Thing number 1, I created a YouTube short for SitFisher. We're trying to get a good backlog of content because TikTok specifically likes when you start a new account and then post a bunch of videos immediately. So that's what we're doing. So it's on YouTube right now on this channel, but you know what? Exclusive content, I'm showing it right now. Hey you, come closer. Let me tell you a tale of how we got our team name. My friends and I are working on a game called SitFisher, and we're currently calling ourselves Siphon Software. But it wasn't always like this. One day, in the darker times, we didn't have a name. Then, we had an idea. We should all submit a name and then vote in a tournament. One by one, each name fell, until there was only 2, and we tied. So, we decided that we were going to duke it out in a game of Balatro, and became Siphon Software. The end. Oh, like, go wishlist SitFisher, man. Like now, dude. Like, come on. Wasn't that a great video? I mean, if you didn't like it, it's fine. I thought it was pretty good. No need to be like a Debbie Downer, dude. Anyway, second thing I did today was I learned about coroutines, and async, which are these 2 concepts that exist in a lot of programming languages, I think, but I learned them specifically for Unity. And I think it was the great Albert Einstein, or maybe Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, that said, if you can't explain a thing well, then you didn't understand it well enough. So I'm going to do some edutainment and explain coroutines and async with my surface level knowledge. Which game development educational content time? Okay, the way that code works in Unity is that everything happens on the same frame. Frame happens, all code that needs to be run, boom, happens right there. Which means if I want a thing to happen immediately, that's what Unity code's fucking. But that means if I want something to happen in sequence, for example, like, let's say I scoot back and then scoot forward after a few seconds, right? If I want something like that to happen, it's difficult. What I'd have to do is I'd have to set up something that is running on every single frame and checking if certain conditions are met, so I can flop back and forth between those 2 things. It can be a headache for what should be relatively simple. That's where coroutines come in. Essentially, all they do is they take a big hunk of code and then samurai slash that shit wherever you want and be like, do this, then wait for a certain thing or amount of time, and then do the rest of this, right? What can you wait for? You can wait for the next frame. You can wait for a certain amount of time. You can wait for a thing to happen. You can wait while a thing is happening. Oh no, what if that thing never happens? Uh-oh, you waited forever. That's bad. Let me explain. All of the things that I type in my little computer and make Unity do happens in this big, like, pipe, right? Now, computers are fast. They're good at doing little code. Oh, my for loop that happens 3 times, no sweat. Now, let's say I do a thing infinitely. Little bit of a sweat. Now, let's say I do a thing infinitely. Oops, that's a bit of a sweat. Whole drain gets clogged. Unity goes, I'm too full, time to crash, and then no more game. And I think they send someone out to kill me afterward. this is where async comes in. Now, async is like coroutine's kind of like older, cooler brother that does everything that coroutines do, just kind of like better. Minus a few caveats. It's like maybe coroutine's kind of like has a better sense of humor, but that won't really ever become like apparent until like later in life, and they're never really going to be praised for it as a kid, so it is going to like hurt their self-esteem in the long run, but it's okay. I mean, generally people will end up liking them more, and they might form better social bonds. Oh my god, shut up! Anyway, async is similar, but instead of going through this pipe, it does its own pipe. It's a trendsetter. It's making waves in this script, alright? So async essentially does the same thing, but just new pipe. So you can throw an infinite thing in that new pipe. Big pipe, important pipe, not getting filled up, not crashing the game. Simple enough, right? What's async worse at? Like very few things. They work slightly differently. Format's different. It's different framework. If a coroutine is on an object, which it has to be, if the object's destroyed, the coroutine's also destroyed. That's not true for async. You might want that. There's certain use cases, but yeah. Also, async is a little worse at WebGL builds. If you don't know what WebGL build is, it's browser game. It's a browser game, and I have a WebGL game out called Attrition, and unfortunately, it runs really bad. And I'm actually very curious. I'll look into this maybe later if it had a lot of async in it, because async just apparently runs bad on WebGL from what I've researched. Okay, that's it. Explanation over. Third thing, I did a little work on Project Andromeda. Very small thing, but it was a bit of a hurdle to get over the learning of the Unity input system, the new one. I guess it always existed, but now it's standard in Unity 6, which I'm currently using, and I've never used it before. So I'm using that now. There's some growing pains, but I'm figuring it out, and I'm trying to get a look camera to work. Okay, so this day is actually quite boring. If you remember what I said yesterday, where I was like, oh, I was really struggling with the input system. Here's another example of this, because it took me, I think, almost an hour to get the camera to rotate around the player based off of clicking and dragging the middle mouse. This is not what I would think would be a difficult thing to do, but it was extremely difficult. But you know what? Eventually, I got it to work. So who cares? And that was my day. Very productive day. Hopefully we can rise and grind and have another super productive day tomorrow. See y'all later. Okay. Today was lock-in. Oh my god. I need to get some WD-40 on this chair fucking now. Today was lock-in day for me on Project Andromeda. Atlas came over. He worked on SpiderWeb. I gave him some scripting advice and did a code review. While he was working on that, I was working on Project Andromeda, and so I recorded a time lapse. This one's kind of long because I did a bunch of stuff and I did a bunch of smart math shit. So you know what? Let me just explain really quick. So now that we have multiple members of a party, my next goal was I wanted to create a system where party members would follow around the character that you currently had selected. So I started off really simple with this following ally script, which just had the character move whenever the player moved. Essentially, that's all it did. And they moved to a certain offset behind the player. Now, this worked, but the first awkward thing that I noticed is that if the ally is closer to your desired position than you are, they'll move in front of you. So it doesn't look like they're reacting to you. It looks like they know where you want to go, which isn't realistic, doesn't feel natural. So I made the following function asynchronous, like I had talked about before, and had the ally wait for the player to be past them before they started moving, similar as if they were reacting to what was happening. But now we have a problem, because allies can only follow directly behind the player. So what I need to do is create some sort of a right offset, which can be negative to be a left offset, but some offset so that they can be on the sides of the player as well as behind them. My ideal shape for a standard 4-party layout is this kind of diamond shape with the selected character at the very front. Once I was able to confirm that was working, I realized that I needed a way to set this automatically. And to do that, the allies would need to communicate with each other in some way, because I don't want to have to manually set how far behind and how far to the right each ally should be every time a new party is created. It would not be worth my time. So the solution that I came up with was that I needed some sort of party manager to effectively allow all of the allies in a party to communicate. Now that they can communicate, I need to create an effective way for them to automatically sort themselves into positions around the player. In my current design, I only expect there to be around 4 party members per party, but there could be more, and I want to create a system where I could theoretically have as many as I want. So I thought about what would be this nice, easy to create curve around the player, like a semicircle almost, and I remembered, oh my god, this looks exactly like a parabola. So I created a parabolic equation in Unity, and then had a system where the first party member would be directly behind at x equals 0, then the furthest out I want to go at x, then the reverse of that, so that a classic 4-party would be this diamond-like pattern, and then in the space between the directly behind area and the further outsides, that's when new party members would fill in until we've reached the logical cap, which I have to set manually for how many people can be per side. And then we just make another parabola, shift it up. So we can keep doing that and adding more and more party members, making more and more parabolas that just go further out and further out. But they all kind of look like they're grouped together in this reasonable sort of line to have the player character at the forefront of the entire party. Now, if that sounds a little complex to you, you'd be 100% correct. This took a lot of finicking and messing around and really racking my brain to get the correct logic and the method of how I was going to do this working. But as you can see, I think towards the end, it turned out pretty solid, and I can add a bunch of people. Little bit of a lighter day, I'm just trying to enjoy my weekend. But I did do some bug fixing on Project Andromeda, so let me explain what I did. So the first problem I need to solve is that all the allies that are supposed to be following the selected character are all clumping up. And the first thing that I noticed is that a lot of them are not actually assigning themselves to the party manager that's supposed to control all of them. And what I found out is that the party manager is not like creating a reference to itself, which allows other scripts to connect to it before the allies want to connect to it. So they're trying to connect to nothing and it's not working. I used a few different methods, or I tried them, but none of them worked. I just needed to use a coroutine to make it wait for the manager to be ready. And then I finally had access to all the party members. But the next problem was that it just didn't look super good. Like, the party members weren't really clumped up anymore, but they were in this super obvious curve. And I mean, I guess that is what happens when I use a curve, but I wanted to create some variable that made everything just go a little bit further, a little bit more into that perfect diamond shape. And after fucking with it for like way too long, I just kind of conceded and created a variable that made things go further out on the x-axis, so that I would have a variable on the y, a variable on the x. They would follow this curve kind of, and then use these offsets to make themselves look nicer. And I got to a point where I was satisfied. I was able to create a result, a set of those variables that made me happy. I set those as the default, and boom, we just had another test done. I am happy with how this party system looks. Did a little bit of future proofing just to make sure that errors that I predict could happen don't end up happening. And then I started working on a scroll wheel to zoom function on the camera. So this works really simply, just using the input system from the mouse wheel. I can do a linear interpolation between the minimum camera position, which would be maximum zoom, and the maximum camera position, which would be minimum zoom. And as you can see, it works pretty good. Like, look at that. Okay, so that is this week. It's over. I took today to rest and learn a little bit more about the game engine. You know, one thing about game development is that it is a constant state of learning. It helps to have a curious mind, but you always have to be learning new things in order to be making your games better. So I just want to do a little recap and show off where Project Andromeda is at the end of this week. Okay, let me show off all the major features, right? So we have this character. I can select a character, pressing these buttons. Boop, boom, right? I can move them around. As you'll see, they'll adjust into a nice party size. Okay, it's not perfect. There's some bugs to work out. You can rotate around, as I've been doing. You can now zoom in and out, and boom, boom, there you go. We got a nice, solid little startup, a RPG like character and party system, and you know the basics of. Now I know it's not very much right now, and progress honestly this week was like a little slow. Like this is kind of just like whatever. It's very much prototype-esque, especially with some of the bugs, but big addendum there. A lot of my time this week was spent just learning advanced Unity scripting techniques and stuff like the inputs. I now feel a lot more confident in all of that. So hopefully what I'm going to start on next week, which will be a surprise. You'll have to watch the next video. If it's already out, go watch it. What I'm working on next is going to be a lot more complex, but I do think I can get it done within a week, and it'll be really cool if I am able to do so. So there you go. A new beginning, a new project, a new cool game to be working on. This one so far, all on my lonesome. But it'll be nice to have full creative control, really express myself creatively, and I'm gonna zoom back in for this one. And that's gonna be everything for this week. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next week. Midas out. And now for my rendition of Cotton Eye Joe, played only on my tongue.